All of this loot and more can be yours with a simple little trick my brother and I found. So the premise here is pretty simple. Volatiles give some of the best loot in the game since they're so hard to kill and very dangerous, so we found a glitch and put together a plan to kill the volatiles safely and easily, beating them up while putting yourself at little to no risk at all. You can see me here on screen doing it now, and I'll get into the details on how to optimize this method. This glitch is very easy to recreate and doesn't really require a lot of difficult execution, powerful weapons, or high levels and abilities on Crane. Basically what I'm saying is your grandmother can do it, and all you really need is the know-how, and I'm here to give you that. Let's start with the location. You're going to want to come here to this spot I'm showing on screen. It's not hard to find, it's just a short run east of Town Hall, the main base of the game. Here it is on the map, and here's a short clip of me running there from Town Hall. Once you're there, head to the bottom of the main staircase and locate this little ledge with a bush on it. Walk into the bush and hug the right wall. Believe it or not, there's a hole in this wall that you can crouch walk through, so just duck down and walk on in. And now you'll see you're under the map. Now while we're down here, I want to point out a few key locations that will be useful when you start farming. First off is this little shelf here, made by a floating floor texture. You should note that you can climb on top of it, crouch under it, and attack through it. I'll call this point A. The next spot I'll mention is the backside of the bottom of the main staircase. I'll call this point B. If you push against it, you can poke your head out of the floor. This location and the next one will be important for later. Last is point C, which is this back wall that leads to the top of the staircase. You can jump onto the wall, turn around, and tic-tac to another floating floor texture here. From there, you can poke your head out of the floor like at point B. Now that you know where the location is, all you need to do now is come here at nighttime and attract the horde. I like to do this by climbing up on this railing and firing off a gun. Once the chase starts, crawl into the hole and under the shelf of point A. Don't go too deep under it, just a few steps in. Then aim upwards and start swinging your weapon. You should be able to hit the volatiles that want your head on a platter, and they shouldn't be able to hit you back. It's very hard to see down here because of the floor texture and the bush, and eventually all of the corpses that pile up on top of you, so use your survivor sense every now and then to locate your target. After doing this for a while, the hordes will eventually thin out, either because they lose track of you or you just killed them off. When that happens, you'll want to crawl out from under that shelf and just peek through the entry hole of point A. Show them your pretty face, or even fire the gun a few times and you may get their attention again. If that doesn't work, go over to point B. Stick your head out from under the stairs and fire your gun. And if that still doesn't get their attention, then go to point C. Climb onto the floating floor texture, poke your head out of the staircase, and fire your gun again. Remember to use your survivor sense to look for any nearby volatiles and try to get their attention. Once you do that, go right back to point A, crawl under the shelf, and start swinging again. From here, just rinse and repeat. Keep hacking and slashing at the volatiles, grab their attention every now and then, and just continue until morning. But hold on, I know you. You're a gamer, and you want to figure out ways to optimize this trick. Well, lucky for you, I've got a few extra tips to make your farming runs a bit more lucrative. So, let's start with the equipment. Here's what I farm with. As I mentioned before, it's very useful to have a gun on you to get the attention of the volatiles. A pistol is preferred since it's got the most common ammo, and there's even ammo that respawns by your bed in the town hall. Next is my weapon of choice, the Breslow blade. This weapon is perfect for these nighttime farming runs because it does enhanced damage to the infected, with additional damage and crit multipliers for being used during the night. Since it's a respawning legendary weapon, you're never going to have to worry about it disappearing for good. It respawns right outside of the town hall whenever you scrap it, so be sure to grab a new one each time it breaks. It'll really save you on weapon durability. If you haven't unlocked it yet, I highly recommend looking up a guide for doing so. There's plenty of good guides out there to help you out, so be sure to check them out. Next, I just like to have a backup weapon for when the Breslow blade breaks. You're going to be slaughtering a lot of volatiles, so have a nice secondary weapon prepared, preferably one you can repair with ease. And lastly, I like to have the Chupaga axe since it increases loot drops. This is pretty optional, you don't need to have it. The volatiles don't always drop a lot of rare or common loot, but every now and then you'll have a different zombie show up, so it can't hurt to maximize. When it comes to modding your weapons, I like to use the elemental crit mods for that extra crit chance. I like to use fire for its high damage over time, and electric mods for the spread damage. If you have grip and charm mods that increase damage, it's a good idea to throw them on there too. We want to kill as many volatiles as we can in one night, after all. Additionally, you might want to have the UV flashlight and some good healing items equipped, just in case anything goes wrong. If you're in it for the experience, then I highly recommend wearing the Explorer set, which can be purchased from the merchant in Town Hall. Killing volatiles all night does give a good chunk of EXP after all. And lastly, be sure to set the game difficulty to Brutal to maximize the loot drops for the volatiles. Even if you're not used to playing on Brutal, you really don't need to worry much as it's a pretty safe method of farming. With all of that preparation out of the way, it's time to go hunting. So I'm just going to show an entire run of this, speeding up through the repetitive parts and calling out some of the decisions I make. So I start by sleeping until the nighttime, of course, and then I head out to the farming spot. Once here, I climb up onto the railing and I fire my gun a few times to get the attention of the volatiles. Once the chase starts, I crawl into the hole and start swinging away. Now, once you're down here, it can be kind of hard to tell if you're actually hitting any volatiles. It's really hard to see, so keep using that survivor sense. You can't even use audio cues to tell if you're hitting your target, since weapons make noise when they hit corpses too. However, you can tell if you're hitting your target if your beast meter goes up. So if you notice it's not going up anymore, then it might be time to regain their attention. On that note, be sure to use your beast meter frequently while you farm. I like to trigger it when my stamina empties out since it replenishes all of the stamina. Here I am just backing out from under the shelf to say hi to the volatiles. You want to do this every now and then to keep their attention. I like to do it when I'm out of stamina since I can't swing anyways. You'll even notice that the diamonds at the top of the screen turned white there. That means they lost me, but poking my head up again turned them red again, meaning I regained their attention. Be sure to look at that and also use the audio cues to tell if they've lost interest. So here's the first instance where they really lose track of me. I poke my head out through the window and they don't see me. I fire my gun through the window and they don't care. So I go to point B and fire my gun. It looks like they didn't care about that one either. So now we go to point C. I climb the wall, hop on top of the shelf, and poke my head out from the staircase to manipulate their spawns. Now that they're here again, I climb back down and head back to point A. And now we've resumed chase. It's time to go back to farming. You'll run into these random holdups multiple times in one night. Ideally, you'll want to never break chase, but when you do, you want to re-enter it as quickly as possible. That's how you get the most loot per night. So really try to get into the rhythm of hitting their feet, popping out to say hi, then going back to hitting their feet again. And if they really lose track of you, go to point B, and even point C if necessary. So here's an interesting tidbit. I actually got hit here. Yes, it is true, this spot isn't 100% airtight. Most of the time you can hit the volatiles and they can't hit you. However, it is possible for them to sneak in a hit on you every now and then. So just keep an eye out for those stray hits and heal when necessary. And if you have beast mode, that should keep your health topped off too. Here's another instance where I lost them. I shot my gun through the window and they didn't see me. I shot my gun at point B and they still didn't see me. So now I climb up to point C and fire my gun a few times. And you can see them start to trickle in. Look at this guy, he stared right at me. But now that they're in a more workable position, we go back to point A, say hi to this guy, hi volatile, and we're back to the old grind. Now here's something really interesting. Honestly, I'm glad I actually got this situation recorded with how infrequent it is, but this is the worst case scenario. Very rarely a volatile can actually sneak into our glitchy staircase and fight us. This will likely be the most dangerous thing that you encounter while attempting this, but I believe in you, gamer. You could take on a single volatile. Just be sure to watch its visual attack cues, dodge and punish, and use the UV flashlight to keep it stunned. I was being kind of reckless here and just spammed beast mode hoping to make the problem go away. Kinda let that one get a lot closer than I needed to. Yeah, don't be like me. Be better. That's why I also recommended having some healing items, just in case. So here's the point where my Breslow blade breaks. When that happens to you, don't worry about that at all. Just dismantle it right away, and move on to your backup weapon. We'll pick up another one once the morning comes. At this point, I really have no other tips to provide, and nothing else particularly interesting happens in this run. Just keep up the pattern of attacking, maintaining chase, regaining attention at those points I mentioned, and using your survivor sense to keep tabs on the volatiles. So I'm just going to let this farming run play out at an accelerated pace. If you want to skip to the end to see some closing tips, feel free to jump to the time I have listed on screen. And here we are. Morning has arrived, and all of the loot is just sitting on the ground, ripe for the taking. I'm going into my menu here to show off a few things. For starters, my experience is now at 3,801. I started the night at 2,597, so that's 1,204 experience gained. And my current wallet shows 14,640 money. To escape, just climb up on top of this floating floor texture, crouch down, and crawl through the hole. And like that, you're out. Look at all that stuff. Now I'll share with you another tip that I'm sure you've heard of before, but looting all of these bodies is an annoying and repetitive task, so we're going to speed that up a little bit. Simply run a short distance away from the pile of bodies, I like to go to this spot here, and then run back. When you return, the bodies will all be gone, making picking up the loot significantly faster. And now you get to claim all your hard-earned valuables. It's at this time I like to switch to the Chupaga axe, as well as the scavenger set to maximize the loot drops. Like I said before, it won't always make a difference, but there's no harm in trying. I actually forgot to do that for a second here in this clip, so I'm glad I managed to remember before it was too late. With all of your loot collected, go ahead and return to the town hall. Be sure to pick up another Breslow blade if you want it. It should have respawned by now. Then head into the building and go check by your bed to see if the pistol ammo has respawned. Doing these two things will help sustain the items that we use on each of these farming runs. Now let's visit the merchant. There's one final step in maximizing our profits here. Notice how the valuables I have available for sale will total up to 1260 money right now. But if you change the difficulty to story mode and try to sell the same valuables, you'll notice that the price is now increased to 1656. So go ahead and sell all of that, and voila! We're significantly richer than before, using an honestly brain-dead and easily sustainable strategy. For this run, I made a profit of 4,287 money. It wasn't my best run, but I chose this footage because it showed a lot of different situations that could happen. If you really keep the volatiles' attention and slaughter them quickly and efficiently, I'm certain you can make even more in one night. I did have a run where I made 6,539 in one night, and I'm not even sure if that was my personal best. And that's all there is to it. Feel free to repeat this process as much as you want to become as rich as you want. Just remember to readjust your weapon and armor set as well as the game difficulty again. Now get out there and enjoy getting rich quick.